Yeah, no, 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 no. Yeah, 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 no, 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 no. Melanated minds with the crown restored. Asiatic truth that we cannot ignore. Honor to noble Drew Ali, we rise. Nationality reclaimed, open your eyes. Love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, the spark. No more strangers walking in the dark. Research first, let the facts ignite. Real Moors talk every week, truth over hype. This is knowledge, this is heritage, this is consciousness. Welcome to Real Moors Talk with your hostess, Prime Minister Doria Bay. Hey. Yeah, no, 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 no. Yeah, no, 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 no. Shadow hour. 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 You are now tuned into Real Moors Talk. Melanated glow, crown back on the throne. Asiatic spirit, yes, we finally home. Honor noble Drew Ali, we proclaim. Nationality restored, we reclaim the name. Yeah, yeah. Love, truth, peace, let it spark that fire. Freedom, justice, lifting hearts higher. No more strangers, we know our part. Real Moors Talk, truth from the heart. Real Moors Talk, truth from the heart. Real Moors Talk, that's right. Yeah, na, 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 na. Shadow hour. Yeah, na, 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 na. Shadow hour. Yeah, na, 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 na. Shadow hour. Yeah, na, 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 na. That's it. Rise up, rise up, rise up. That's it. Rise up. This is heritage. That's it. Rise up. This is consciousness. That's it. Rise up. That's your heritage. That's it. Rise up. Never haven't been. That's it. Rise up. This is heritage. This is consciousness with your hostess, Prime Minister Doria Bay.
All right, everyone. Welcome to Real Morse Talk, another episode of Real Morse Talk. I am always so excited to be with you all today and the topics of conversation that we'll be having today on Real Morse Talk. But first and always, I want to always rise the ethers and give praises to our Creator, whom I choose to call Allah, for allowing me to wake up this rising in my right frame of mind with my good common sense, life, health, and consciousness, with the ability to stay on this road, the Islamic road, because sometimes it's rough and sometimes it's smooth. When you're working for truth, when you're fighting for the truth, you know, that sometimes you feel like you're all alone in that journey. So I want to rise and give praises to our Creator for that, allowing me to have some of you all who are on the journey with me. So I appreciate that. Welcome to Shadow Hour on Real Morse Talk. Yes, we're at Shadow Hour, and I just love to be able to share that with you. Today, on Thursday, July 9th, 2026, we are going to be doing some very interesting information today. We're going to we're going to talk about the prophet. We're going to talk about the prophet, always talking about the prophet and the things that the prophet has, brought the information to us, but how we utilize it. So I want to say hi vibrations to everyone. Welcome to Real Morse Talk. If this is your very first time joining us, then we appreciate the fact that you are joined in and tuned in today. If you are a recurring guest, we appreciate your support for continuously coming in and supporting us each week. We are on episode 24. And I just want to thank everyone for the prior week. We hit explosive numbers in the prior week for our 4th of July episode. So thank you for your support. That shows that you all passed it on to someone else and shared the information with someone else and shared the information with someone else. We want to thank you so much for doing that so much. So before tonight's discussion, I would like to thank everyone for our biggest broadcast yet. We had over 14,500 episodes and rising. Everyone came in, viewers and rising to join us. So it was about the 4th of July, the independent 4th of July, and it was freedom for whom. And I remember typing that into one of my family chats with one of my family because my sister was saying, congratulations on celebrating 4th of July. And it shows you that even when people are in the same family, that doesn't mean our mindsets are all the same. And so I was saying freedom for whom, and she made a smart remark back, and I didn't even bother to comment because she thinks she free, obviously, because she feel like she can celebrate the 4th of July. So anyway, I know Taj went over information about celestial and astronomical and astrology and all that for the 4th of July, and that's fine. If you're going to celebrate that, celebrate on the 1st of July. But the 4th of July, the date that they even celebrate on is false because we know that it was signed. We know that they agreed on it on the 2nd. We know that it was not officially talked about on the 4th, and they didn't even sign it into law until August. So and we know that all laws are man-made, but they didn't sign it till August. So I'm not sure what we are celebrating, but that was the week prior. All right, episode. So what I want to also talk about today is because I realize a lot of you all hang up or maybe not stay until the full episode. So I want to talk about a few things too about our online schooling for Moorish children. So I'm the director and founder of online schooling for Moorish children. For more than a decade, our school has provided year-round education for students from elementary to high school with courses in history, financial literacy, language arts, mathematics, science, health, foreign language, career readiness, and culture studies. We also provide homeline schooling support, parent resources, and nationality-focused educational programs. If you are looking for an educational environment that emphasizes scholarship for your family and children, discipline, critical thinking, and character development, which we need so much in our community, we invite you to learn more about it. You can click the link in the description box down there, and it'll take you right to a flyer that we do have that we're promoting for our school right now. And we also have it where we're going to have a little informational education package when you're going to be able to click the link and be able to download that right into giving you some tips about things you should be teaching your children already. Because one of the things is we teach a lot here on Real Morse Talk But some of us are grown and we just learn the information. But I'm a fortunate child. I had the information when I was a child, so I know how valuable and important it is. So think about that. Your children could be getting the same education information right now through our online schooling. So consider that. If you're looking for somewhere for your children to learn discipline, critical thinking, and character development, we invite you to learn more about our online schooling for Moorish children. And like I said, you can hit that link in the description box and it will take you right to our school. You can also always donate to online schooling for Moorish children MC. Always donate to us. We're always looking for fiat to donate to help keep the lights on, help keep the internet on, help us perpetuate and keep going. And then our Doors of Drew Ali, also the Doors of Drew Ali is, which is our humanitarian organization. You can also do that. And I just want to start in the beginning and do it. And also you can donate to More Science with GSK at theredbay.com. Purchase our books. I want to thank all of those who purchased books from our previous episode, Circle7Publishing.com. Some of you all brought the unconstitutionality of the 14th Amendment. Some of you brought the Constitution. Some of you brought the rights of the child. And some of you brought the story of Rebecca, Pocahontas' story. So we want to thank you so much for contributing to that. Also to our Doors of Drew Ali. Okay, so I wanted to get that in there because one of the things that I recommended an associate of mine was saying, well, Prime Minister, you should tell that to the people in the beginning, because a lot of times of us, we're running or whatever, and we don't even get to know that you have information to share with us, the school or etc. So I wanted to make sure that we get that information out there to you all. So, and thank you for allowing me to do that this time, to do that, because it's really important what we're doing here. And what we're teaching you, your children can learn it too. All right. So continue to follow us, continue to be with us. All right, here. All right. And so we're going to go ahead and move into our episode. All right. And a lot of you all probably seen the flyer, where on the flyer I have the information about how Jim Crow ends how when they had the signs up. And the amazing thing is a lot of signs did not say, you didn't see a lot of signs that said Jews, but in the black code that talked about Jews, and we're going to talk about that, the people that call themselves Jews. But I wanted to remind you all that it said no Negroes allowed, no colored folks allowed, no Mexicans allowed. And so they didn't even want us, they didn't want Mexicans, they didn't want anyone else with this whole Jim Crow era thing that they went to. So we're going to talk about the divine warning from the prophet, because the prophet tried to warn us about the things that we saw, that we later on, warn us about those things in the divine warning. And so we're going to talk about that and some of the time history, because it's really important for us to know our legacy so that we don't repeat it. It's really important that we find out the information now, even if we didn't get it when we were younger. We find it out now so we don't deem to repeat the same errors and mistakes. And I was watching this brother over the week when he was talking about assimilation and amalgamation into the Europeans' government. I just want to add this before I get started, is that anytime you are amalgamating into the government, that's even when you're carrying their names. So if your name is hyphen, you got a slave name through and through. Your name is Charles Bristol hyphen Bay, or Jimmy, hyphen Brown hyphen Eel, any of those things. You are still amalgamating, because you are assimilating your free national name with that slave name, and now you put your free national name into chattel property. That hyphenation in there is now taking your free national status and hyphenated to the slave, which is amalgamation. And now you are what? You're taking your free national name and you're hyphenating that, and now you're making it a part of, its contradictory. Now you're making it a part of the chattel property. So a lot of Moors will tell you, oh, hyphenated, because the Prophet Noble Dralis had hyphenate your name, because if you do hyphenate your name, then you can still collect on your property. Slaves could never own property. Understand that. And Master John and Master Johnson, Master Brown, Master whomever that is their, you're hyphenating your name to that. And so that property that they stole from us, they still have that property. The way you get your property back is connect to your free national status. That way you get your property back. You can't get your property back under slave entitlement, because slaves cannot own property. I want you all to understand that. That's the reason why they kept us in slavery, even after what happened with the 13th Amendment, where we're going to talk about that. They literally try to keep laws to keep us from having rights. And everyone says, oh, rights are given to you at birth, and you're given these rights, and you have the right, but they have to be enforced. That's what makes the difference of rights. You're born with inalienable rights, absolutely. But who enforces the rights? Your rights have to be enforced. Okay, and so there's documentation that is created by man and woman to help enforce your rights, because no one's really know exactly what rights do you have. You have the right to breathe, you have the right to live, you have the right to eat, you have the right to rest, you have the right to live, but people still take away those rights daily. So there's laws put into place to be able to preserve those rights. And those are some of the things that we really need to honestly talk about, because everybody can run around talking about we should be able to have this and that or whatever. But if you're not having it, then what? What is the question? If you're not having it, then what? What is the answer? And that is what we're here to do at Real Moors Talk. So it's Real Moors talking about real issues all the time. So tonight, we're going to examine this history and then compare it to one of the things that Prophet Noble Jolly's most significant public warning, divine warning for the nations. Divine meaning what? That is what? Unlimited. Divine meaning that is from the highest point, right? And then warning means that you're being told something before it takes place, or keep you from making an error. So divine warning by the prophet. So I want to start with the end of slavery, and I want to go into a lot of Moors try to act like that we were not enslaved. We were strangers in our own land. And if you don't like the word slavery because it comes from the word Slavic, and you don't want to identify with your history and your legacy, that's on you. Because truth is the truth. And it doesn't matter if you don't want to claim it or not. It is the truth. And the truth of the matter is, we were captive in our own land. We were strangers in our own land. And they chose to call that slavery. Now, if you don't want to accept that, you are another individual that's denying truth or whatever, and that's your right, because you have the right to your opinion, but it makes it no proof of the truth. The point of the matter is, we were captive and taken slave in our own land, strangers in our own land, and in our own land, things were stripped away from us, taken away from us, and that even includes our right to breathe, our right to think, was taken away from us during that time. So slavery was not the end of discrimination. So let's go into the Civil War ends, the 13th Amendment abolished slavery, and then Reconstruction begins. So we know that the 13th Amendment supposedly had abolished slavery, right? But we know when the Dred Scott decision took place, what happened is the Judge Taney decided that he was going to overturn the Missouri Compromise, right? That we were not considered citizens. We were not considered even less than human in his eyes as far as he was concerned. So then the 13th Amendment was stripped away down to two sections, and then the 14th Amendment was put on board. Okay, so the newly free people seeking education, voting rights, employment, and political participation, and they didn't have those things. Reconstruction also produced strong resistance in many southern states. Reconstruction was the third following the Civil War, generally lasting from 1865 to 1877. It was the federal government's effort to rebuild the nation after 4 years of war and to determine how the former Confederate states were going to rebuild themselves. And remember, a lot of this stuff took place because they wanted to keep slaves. All right, they wanted to keep slaves, and so this is why we had the Civil War. Actually, the Civil War was a fight against keeping slavery alive. That's what it was all about. All right, so they wanted to restore the Union. It also addressed the legal status and civil rights of approximately 4 million formerly people enslaved, people who are strangers in their own land. It was over, and I'm sure it probably was more than that, but they say over 4 million. That's a lot of people. And remember, this wasn't overnight. This was generationally. So when you were captive in your own land, They took you and probably separated your mother and you. They probably moved your mother to Jamaica, probably left you here. Then when you had children, they might have sent your children over to somewhere else, maybe to Trinidad. You know, they use the territories to confuse the minds of the people so that you would feel like you was coming from somewhere else. So they moved us territorially depending on age, depending on what plantations needs and etc. So we were all mixed up at that time. Okay. All right. And so why was the Reconstruction necessary? Well, the Civil War ended in April of 1865, and the Confederate government had collapsed as they knew it. Southern economics were devastated, railroads, farms, and cities had been damaged. State governments and former confederacies needed to reorganize. Many of our people were considered free, but we did not have resources. We didn't have property. We didn't have proper education, economic security. The United States had preserved the Union through the war, but the nation still had to decide what freedom would mean in its practice. Three major goals of Reconstruction. The major goal of the Reconstruction was to restore the Union. The first objective was to bring the former Confederate states back into the United States. Congress required the states to establish the new state governments, recognize the end of slavery, and meet certain constitutional requirements before regaining full representation in Congress. So these are the lessons that we need to be learning or knowing. Some of us probably never got it in school, didn't know it, didn't learn it, you know. The second thing was to define freedom. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery, but many important questions still remain. For example, were formerly enslaved people, the people that were kept in their own line, were they considered citizens? Could they even own property? Could they testify even in court? Could they vote? Could states deny them equal legal and protection under the law? These are questions that came about. These questions led to the adoption of the 14th and 15th Amendments because the 13th Amendment was not clear. It wasn't clear on what slaves would or would not have after it. The third thing was to rebuild the Southern government. Many Southern states government had supported secessions and rebellion. Congress required new governments to be organized under federal supervision before the states were fully readmitted. Presidential Reconstruction. After President Abraham Lincoln's assassination in April of 1865, Vice President Andrew Johnson became president. As we know, that's what happens. If something happens to the president, then the vice president usually steps up. Johnson favored a relatively lenient approach towards the former Confederate states. Many Southern states quickly returned to power. However, they also enacted laws known as black codes, which restricted many of the freedoms of formerly enslaved people. So they was going to try to keep us, they was going to try to keep us enslaved. They didn't care what they had to do it. They just really was not happy with the 13th Amendment giving us any types of freedom. All right. The Black Code laws were enacted primarily by former Confederate states in 1865 and 1866, immediately after the Civil War and the abolishment of slavery. Their purpose was to restrict the freedom of formerly enslaved people and preserve a labor system similar to slavery despite the 13th Amendment. They didn't care. They didn't care. This is what they wanted to do. They wanted to keep their foot in our necks, and they just didn't want to give up their property. It seemed like people had a hard time on letting us go. Just letting us go just seemed like they'd rather die. They went to war. So before they wanted to give us any freedoms at all, they went to war, right? So this is why we should honor more about the prophet than anything. But let me finish my information, and then we'll talk more about it. So black codes regulated many aspects of daily life for Asiatics, for Moors of African descent who were enslaved, for those of us who know we were enslaved, for those who try to act like you was too good and your grandparents weren't enslaved. Some of you all might have, but most of us that are here in this Northern Territory, even the so-called people that they call indigenous today, which is the so-called American Indian, which we know, and now they call them Native Americans or whatever. Those were our people, different tribes of us, but same people, right? Those people were from the tribe of Shem. And so they were also in this slavery portion with us. All of us were there. So the black codes included employment and labor contracts, freedom of movement, property ownership, access to the courts, apprenticeship to of children, vagrancy laws, firearm possession, and testimonies in court. It sounds like the same thing today, right? It sounds like the black codes are still being enforced. Because listen, the bottom line is there is nowhere in history where it said the black codes had ever been abolished or stopped. And so they're just finding new ways to implement the black codes. The practical effect was to limit the civil and economic freedom of formerly enslaved people and maintain a racial hierarchy. They still have that today. It's not changed. So, Mississippi in 1865 required many formerly enslaved people to sign annual labor contracts, allowed authorities to arrest individuals for vagrancy if imposed penalties that could result in forced labor. In South Carolina in 1865, restricted certain occupations, limited economic independence, required license for some forms of employment. They didn't want you to have, and we know in the term of employment and employer is still a slave term. So we try to use the word contract today, but we know employment, it comes from the slave era and the slave term. These laws prompted Congress to enact the Civil Rights Act of 1866 and later support the 14th Amendment as part of the Reconstruction. Now, and I know a lot of us are still fighting with the 14th Amendment, whether it was constitutional, unconstitutional, and all of that. A lot of that's still going to always be. But you have to think about the reason why they fought so hard against the 14th Amendment was because it gave us and reestablished the rights that we were supposed to have. Even though we know we were supposed to have rights, we know that the Declaration of Independence was supposed to protect the rights of the people and treated everybody equally and free. But we know the prophet's words, because that declaration had never been fulfilled. It had never been fulfilled. If it had been fulfilled, they would not needed the 14th, 15th, or 16th Amendments. But because they did not, these things had to be fulfilled to give us some room to breathe some freedom. All right, so why do people say black codes versus the Christian black codes? So there is a debate of whether this was the Christian black codes or whether this was just simply black codes. And we know that a lot of people that are Christians do not want to associate it with Christianity, but a lot of it was forced religion. This is how a lot of us wind up being Christians. And some of us swear to that religion today, but it's a man-made religion that was forced upon us in slavery. So the phrase Christian black codes is not a standard historical term for everyone to use. It's the Christian black codes typically referred to the 1724 code. It's also called the King Louis XIV, 1685. The Caribbean codes. These French colonial decrees integrated religious mandates with strict radical segregation into institutions, okay, and police slavery. Core tenets of the 1724 code, that the 54 articles dedicated every aspect of enslaved and free Asiatic life, strictly enforcing Catholicism, which is the practice of the Catholic religion, while stripping away basic human rights. Mandatory Catholicism. Masters were legally required to baptize and instruct all slaves in the Roman Catholic faith. Slaves placed under the non-Catholic supervision were subject to confiscation. Strict observance of holy days. Slaves were forbidden to work on Sundays and recognized religious holidays. See, and listen to this. It's still embedded in us. This is why my sister wrote that ridiculous, because they weren't raised in Moorish science. They're, same mother, different father, but we came all through the same canal. But it can show you that even in your family, people have different thoughts of opinion, right? And so this is what I'm saying about these holidays and why I'm so pressed on getting you all to stop celebrating these ridiculous holidays, because these holidays were forced on us. Christianity and the Catholic religion, the Catholicism religion, that was it. That was forced on us. These religious black codes was forced on us. Even to practice on Sundays was forced on us. So these are things that were forced. Prosecution of minorities. Article 1, the nobility, Article no, 1, nobility, interracial restrictions. The code fiercely prohibited Europeans and Asiatic individuals from marrying or cohabitating, enforcing heavy fines against violators, including the priests who officiated those services. Severe physical punishment, like Trump doing right now to anyone who does abortions or things like that. Right? Not that I'm saying I'm for abortion, but anybody that gets birth control or anything like that, the same type of punishment. He's using those same type of laws. The laws repeated, repeated, repeated running away. Uh, okay, so okay, maiming or death. Repeated. Okay, so let me go back. I apologize. The laws. Okay, let me go back to the laws. Orthodox branding. A lot of the branding that people had on their backs or next to whatever to brand you as property, like when you put your stamp on there. Whipping in extreme cases, you'll see a lot of our ancestors had like big keloids on their backs from the whipping and things. They whipped them to their flesh bled. And keloids are a very awful thing to have. I should know I suffer with those. And so, can you imagine back in that time suffering with the keloids? I mean, our foreparents had to know how to create different herbs and tonics and stuff just to keep us surviving from the heavy whippings and beatings and maimings and things that happened to us. In extreme cases, as such as legacy, while the French evolution and legacy, while the French instituted harsh religious and physical controls. The codes also established some baseline protections. The mandate minimizing food and clothing allowances, forbid the separation of young children from their mothers, and outline a process for legal emancipation with owner consent. The framework of combining racial subjugation with religion and rigor labor laws provided a structural blueprint for later American laws following the Civil War. Many sovereign states enacted similar black codes to functionality, restored race-based hierarchies, and controlled newly emancipated Asiatic labor laws. It is generally used by some authors or speakers when they're talking about this. They want to try to take away the Christian part of the black codes. But the reason why a lot of people were calling it the Christian black codes was because of the strict enforcement of religion. So now you have to ask. A lot of our people don't know this history because I think if they did, they would not be practicing this Christianity. A lot of us try to constantly still keep Christianity in our lives. We try to mix it with Islamism, and the prophet let us know that Moors who practice Christianity are Moriscos. I mean, that's even historically, you can look it up. Moors who practice Christianity are considered Moriscos. Don't get angry with me because that's what you are. You a Moor that practices Christianity because Islam is our religion. So when some people even try to say, oh, our religion came from the background of the Catholic Church, that's a lie. The Catholic Church was forced on us, but the Catholic Church stole things from the Moors during the period of the religious war. They stole items from us. So the Ankh, I don't have my Ankh on today. So the Ankh that you see, the shape of the Ankh, they created the Coptic cross. They took the cross and put a great big dome over top of it and called it the Coptic cross. That's ours. The clothing that the women wear, where you see a lot of them wear the hijabs and the kumars that they wear on top of their head. That all came from us. They call it a habit, but it's a kumar, right? It's originally from ours. The tunics that they wear, the clothing that they wear, all of that came from us. Excuse me. So they stole from us and put it into themselves, their religion. Even the beads, the so-called rosary beads, Prophet Muhammad used to have the beads where he counted the beads and for prayer, the 99 beads, all of that came from us. And so they took our things created with their Catholic religion, put it in there, and then they forced the Catholic religion on us, even forced us on Sundays. Now, I know a lot of plantation owners did not really follow the black codes as far as not having you work on Sunday. What you would have to do is once you went to church on Sunday, then you came after church. You had to change your Sunday best clothes and go ready to work in the field. So some of them didn't honor the whole thing where you had so Sundays off totally. They still wanted to get that labor out of you. But for those who did not enforce that, what happened is they were fined if they had you work on a Sunday because it was the law. Excuse me. All right. A lot of people don't understand that the word science comes from the word knowledge. And so if you look up the word science or knowledge, it'll go hand in hand. So our legacy is the same thing as the science because we have to know who we are. And some of you are who are in denial of who you are. That's your own thought. And you should keep your general opinions, your lies to yourself because more science is more history, more legacy. We need to know our legacy and history. Science is knowledge, and knowledge is knowing. And you need to know your history. You need to know your past so you'll know where your future lies. So some of us think we know everything. We know we woke up yesterday. Some of us woke up yesterday, still wet behind the ears, but swear we got all the answers and know everything. And that's not true. We do not. And so, and if that's where you're headed and that's your thought process and you don't want to learn about your legacy history, you want to still deny what happened to us in slavery, because listen, we're deemed to repeat it right now because with Trump in office right now, the same issues of the black codes are being enforced, whether you want to admit it or not. For all y'all that went on and voted for him and you shouldn't have voted for him, but you did anyway because you thought you was doing the right thing, because the Republican form of government does not mean that you are a Republican. That is not how it goes. You vote in your best interest. And so because some of you all feel like as Asiatic men, when you get pulled over and locked up, you're going to be begging somebody to get you out. But Trump made immunity for all policy enforcers. So those policy enforcers have immunity. So they lock you up, whatever. Don't call none of us. I know a lot of you all have called me that used to disrespect me when you got locked up. So don't think that you know it all because you don't. And you always have an opening for learning. It's really important that you learn. It's really important that you take the time to learn information, because if you would have had the information that you needed, certain situations and conditions you would not be in. But we need to know this. So I'm going to food my thoughts. So I'm going to put how Jim Crow led to. I'm going to put this in chronological order for you all. And so you all, again, I always tell y'all have a pencil and paper to take notes if you desire to do so, or you can always play this back over and over again. Okay, so 1865, the Civil War ends. 1865, the 13th Amendment abolishes slavery. Two important points: abolish slavery without giving us any of our information to our rights and without enforcing the Declaration of Independence. So it gave us that. 1865 to 1866, Southern states enacted the Black Codes. Okay, 1866, Congress passed the Civil Rights Act of 1866. 1868, the 14th Amendment was ratified. Some of you all don't agree with that, and that's fine. 1870, the 15th Amendment is ratified. Some of you all don't agree with that. In 1877, Reconstruction ends. In the late 1870s onward, states increasingly adopt Jim Crow laws, creating a broader system of legal enforcement and segregation. And remember, if you ever seen some old movies, because I was not there, but I've talked to elders that were there and elders that actually fought, with the civil rights movement and those who were trying to fight for the rights that we're supposed to have at birth, is that one of the things that they considered, if you were sitting, say you were sitting in the front of a bus, let me give you an example, and the Europeans got on and it was all full, and you were supposed to move to the back. If you didn't follow that, you were fined for not following Jim Crow laws. Okay. Now, Jim Crow have children today, right? And these are the children we're dealing with today, right? These Jim Crow laws. So Jim Crow laws, along with the Black Codes, there's nowhere historically, anywhere, that it says it has been stopped or abolished. Nowhere, anywhere where it talks about Jim Crow laws constitutionalized, nowhere it talks about these laws being abolished or stopped at all. Okay. They slowed down on changes with the civil rights movement in the marches. We fought to, be able to ride on the bus. So for some of you all who can get on a bus today, know for certain it was for those people who gave up their life to make sure you can ride a bus. For you Moors is so proud to think you wasn't enslaved and all of that. You still was enslaved. And it doesn't matter. You know you were a Moor. You tell them that you a Moor, but they still do not see you as more than a nigger. You have to literally force that information to them over and over again. When they try to enforce those black codes on you or Jim Crow laws, you have to let them know that you are free, that you're a Moor, that you're a citizen, and you belong to a nation, that you're a national. You have to tell them that to enforce it. They're not just going to enforce, they're going to see you like anyone else. And most of you all that practice the right to travel are practicing it wrong. You're getting pulled over on the side of the roads or whatever. You go to court. You say this stuff never works because you didn't implement it properly. But a lot of you all are traveling around in cars that are still under contract. You're traveling around with cars that the registration says one thing and you presenting them with something that says something different. And ETC, you all know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to get on that. You all know what it is. And these are reasons that we have to know who we are, know what laws were enforced so we can correct the wrong. And our children need to know this information now so that later on they're not just learning it. So they can make sure that they protect themselves, make sure we protect them, teach them the right things to do. But they have to know that all of this stuff has a history. It has a legacy. And we need to make sure that we do not repeat things from the past. Because if you continuously repeat the same things over and over again, to me, it seems like you just like being misused and abused. If you want to stop people like myself from talking about it, are you an agent? I have to ask that question. Who are you? What are you? Why are you trying to stop progress? Why are you trying to stop people from learning? Are you being paid to do Trump commercials and get on there and provide, make sure we vote for Trump? Well, who are you? What are you doing? Because, everybody that's skin folk is not kinfolk. Everybody that look like us is not for us, and that's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. So we really need to support anyone on any channel. I don't know a lot of people that are on it talking about Real Moors Talk like I am and doing what I do. But if they are, I would like to support them because it's really important that we support one another and that we assist one another. So if you know something that I do not know, then please assist me, help me. If I make an error on here about something that I do not know, instead of trying to criticize and come in and troll in my chat and channel and try to make me feel bad or make me look bad and make yourself feel good. This is the prophet said, one who takes the life of another shall never enjoy its own. And that's not just talking about physical death. It's talking about spiritual death, mental death. So when you all are doing things to other Moors or beating them up or talking bad about them for the work that they're trying to do, you have to ask yourself, what are you doing lately? What have you done to uplift fallen humanity? What have you done to secure the rights of the people? What have you done historically to educate the people, to let them know what has happened in the past, so therefore we don't repeat it in the future? You have to ask yourself, what have you done? Because if you spend your time all day trying to kill the spirit and life of others, you'll never enjoy your own life because you're too busy trying to bring harm to others. And you just have to think about those things. I have no problem with my tongue at all. None. So that's why it makes me dangerous to a lot of people, especially Europeans. I don't bite my tongue to make people feel good about themselves. That's not who I am. Never have been, never will be. Okay, so let's go over that. So I went through the chronological for the audience, and I just want to repeat it one more time to make sure that people are following. So all of these things that we went through and post us being enslaved and taken to different territories, knowing we were strangers in our own land. But listen, we couldn't even talk to one another. We couldn't communicate with one another. We didn't do that. They took our husbands and took them and made them out of bucks, which would mean that they was supposed to go to different slave camps and have sex with those women and have children. So some of us even may have wound up being with our own family members because we just don't know. So if you moved over to the Johnson plantation, you became a Johnson. If you moved over to the Smith plantation, you became a Smith. If you moved over to the Brown plantation, you became a Brown. So that's how they territorially kept us confused. And mainly whenever you see the movies, when the young mothers had the children, they took them right away from you, took it to master. And master went and sold it off. But we were just property. We were purchased, and we're still being purchased by these Europeans. So we were property. If you look at your rappers and stuff today who claim that they don't care about Asia and all that, they still being paid off. They still being bought. A lot of them just now selling themselves versus them having to sell you from your parents. They're selling themselves for riches and fame. This is what they're doing, and they don't care nothing about their own people. So we have to keep those things in our mind. All right, so I want to go over one more time. 1865, the Civil War ends. 1865, the 13th Amendment abolishes slavery according to what they said, but it did not, I have to say that again. It abolished slavery, but it did not enforce the Declaration of Independence, where it made sure that we were equal and free and had our rights. It did not do that. Okay. All right. In 1865 to 1866, the Southern states enacted the Black Codes. We call it the Christian Black Code because it was enforced with religion as well as other mandatory things. In 1866, Congress passed the Civil Rights Act of 1866. In 1868, the 14th Amendment was ratified. Again, I'm going to say I know some of you all don't agree, but I believe that it was ratified. Me, I do believe that. More, I have my own thoughts. I'm not following a bunch of people because what they say, I have my own thoughts to think. In 1870, the 15th Amendment was ratified. In 1877, Reconstruction ends. In the late 1870s on, states increasingly adopted Jim Crow laws, creating a broader system of legally enforced segregation. And we know that segregation means the separation of the people. So they wanted to keep us, now that we were able to roam freely on our land again, they wanted to make sure that we had no connection with the people that was here, that came in our territory. And always remember, Malik said that Plymouth Rock landed on us. We did not land on Plymouth Rock. So he's telling you that we were here. The Europeans came and landed on us, right? They came here, but now they feel like this is their land, their American land. They want to, this is their Christian land. This is their land. They claiming it, even though they stole it, literally stole it. They're hanging on to it. They have no desire to give it back. None. Okay. All right. All right. So now I want to go into the sequence shows that the Black Codes were an early post-Civil War effort to restrict the freedom of formerly enslaved people, while Jim Crow began a more extensive system of segregation and disenfranchisement that developed later. This is for a translation and summary of the Christian Black Codes of Louisiana, 1724. And these are all Roman numerals. I'm going to go over really quickly. The first one decrees the expulsion of Jews from the colony. Now, we know that the people that call themselves Jews are not the real Jews. We already know that. But these people who have adopted Judaism, even it was against those people. So my question to them is, why do you hate us so much or rob and steal from us? Because they hated you just as much as they hated us. You know, you were the ones that were considered the white slaves, where they did, and they called y'all indentured service, but you all were enslaved at one time too. So why do you treat us so badly when they didn't like you either? Okay, they ease up on you. Okay, the second one makes it imperative on masters to impart religious instructions on their slaves. I'm going to say it again, Moors. Y'all Christians and those who are not Moors, or those who just listen to them because it was enforced on you. It was not given to you at birth. It's not your right. It was forced on you. People try to act like these codes did not exist, so you don't know why you into Christianity. I'm telling you why. It was forced on you, and you don't have to believe me. It's documentation. Okay. 3. Permits the exercise of the Roman Catholic Creed only. Every other mode of worship was prohibited. So you had to practice the Catholic faith. You had to be in the Catholic faith. That was part of the Christian black codes. You had to practice that Catholic faith. Okay. Number 4, Negroes placed under the direction of supervision of any other person than a Catholic are liable for confiscation. So if you were, what happened is if you were not practicing the Christianity and they wasn't doing that on that plantation you were on, or say, you weren't on a plantation anymore, you were just working for them because it's still part of slavery. If you wasn't practicing it, you were able to be confiscated and put back into slavery and taken. Someone could confiscate you. So say I'm right next door to you and I find out that you're not practicing the Catholic faith with your slaves. I could come take your slaves. But according to the Christian Black Codes law, I could take your slaves from you. Right? And put them into the Catholic religion. Number 5, Sundays and holidays are to be strictly observed. All Negroes found at work on these days are to be confiscated. So if you were forced to work on Sundays and forced to work on their holidays, you were confiscated. Number 6, would forbid our European subjects to both sexes to marry with the Asiatics under penalty of being fined and subject to some other arbitrary punishment. We forbid all curates, priests, or missionaries of our secular or regular clergy, and even our chaplains in our Navy, to sanction such marriages. Right, to sanction such marriages. We also forbid all of our European subjects and even the manumitted or free or broken Asiatics to live in a state of concubinism with Asiatics. Should there be any issue from this kind of intercourse, it is our will that the person so offending, first the issue, okay, let me say, should have their issue from this kind of intercourse. It is our will that the person so offending and the master of the slave and pay each a fine of 300 livres is what they considered at that time. They should said issue to the result of the concubinage of the master with his slave, said master shall not only pay the fine, but be deprived of the slave and of the children, who shall be adjudged to the hospital of the locality, and said slaves shall be forever incapable of being set free. So if your slave master amalgamated with you and had children, their thing was that you would never be able to be set free, even if it was the slave master's fault. But should this illicit intercourse have existed between a free Asiatic and his slave, when they said free Asiatic had no legitimate wife, and should say said Asiatic marry said slave according to the forms prescribed through the church, said slave shall be thereby set free, and the children shall also become free and legitimate. And in such a case, there shall be no application of the penalties mentioned in the present article. So, and that's the biggest one. 6 is the largest one. And of course, they use the term BLCK. I'm not calling us that. We were never that. But this is what they did. So you see, all of this stuff was forced on us. The things, their holidays, their Sundays, their religion was all forced on us. So if it's forced on me and then generationally I have children, then I'm going to enforce that on my children, right? I'm going to think that, by the way, and so by the time generations of people come on board, then at that time, what happens generationally? So then we still have that same mindset today. Okay. Number 7, the ceremonies and forms prescribed by the ordinance of Blois and be the edict of 1639 for marriages shall be observed both with regard to free persons and to slaves, but the consent of the father and mother of the slave is not necessary. That of the master shall be the only one required. 8, We forbid all curates to possess to effect marriages between slaves without proof of the consent of their masters. And we also forbid all masters to force their slaves into marriage against their will. So again, against your will. So somebody was talking about rights. You had a right. You was born with inalienable rights and all that. Yes, we were. But these rights were taken away. So when you try to say, we had these rights, they were taken away, and we were forced to do other things that was against nature, against our creator. So this is why there was laws established to give you back your rights, because they were taken away. Doesn't matter. People say you had the right to breathe, the right to eat, the right to live, the right to think. But these were all taken away. You couldn't even make your own religious choice. You could not really choose your own mate if they wanted to mate you with something. And then if the slave master decided to sexually rape you, because that's what they did, rape you. Now, I don't call it so, it was rape you and have children, then you and your children could never be considered free, because you will always be his property. They have all these laws in place to keep you in the state of mind where you're not able to think for yourself. So the reason that we think the way we're thinking and not know is because we do not know our rights. We do not know what happened to us and why we're in certain conditions. And we need to know these things. 9. Children issued from the marriage of slaves shall follow the condition of their parents and shall belong to the master of the wife and not to the husband, if the husband and wife have different masters. 10. If the husband be a slave and the wife a free woman, it is our will that their children of whatever sex they may be shall share the condition of their mother and be as free as she, notwithstanding the servitude of their father. And if the father be free and the mother a slave, the children shall all be slaves. So you see, so doesn't that take you back in the mind that why fathers just leave the home? They leave the mother with the children, her to take care of the children, and he leave home for whatever ridiculous reasons. I've heard all kinds of reasons they leave home, because there wasn't enough food to feed the mouths of the children, and they be one more mouth to feed. But then you turn around and they start a family somewhere else with some other woman and her children, and taking care of her children, never come back to see their own children, because that's part of the conditioning. So if the mother was a slave, the children would be a slave. So the father would move on, because he didn't want to be, a slave too. Our brothers weren't strong enough, most of them, to carry that burden and say, I'll be with my wife and my children. They didn't carry that burden. They wanted to move on. Okay. All right. So, history tells us that, excuse me, history tells us that after the Civil War, the black codes and later the Jim Crow system restricted the rights of many Asiatics of African descent through law and custom. Prophet Noble Drawley's perspective was that rather than focusing only on legislation, he emphasized nationality, identity, moral conduct, and what he agrees with the interpretation or not understanding of the historical content. And I'm going to read the divine warning from the prophet. I'm going to grab some wood. I'm going to check the chat, and then I'm going to read the divine warning from the prophet. I have so much good information for you all here today. And I'm going to go to the chat really quickly. Because y'all been lighting the chat up for whatever reason. So I appreciate you all coming to the chat, though I do, and putting your thoughts in there. So let's go to the chat. And my brown frame glasses, I do not have those with me. Oh. So my glasses are in my other bag. So I'm going to read the best I can. I apologize for squinting on screen. But the first one says Islam, then that was William Lester, then in their crochet purse. Then let's see, Orish's Messiah Bay, Islam Mother Prime Minister, Islam Blondell Sykes. Good to see you, Mar. I haven't seen you in a while. Islam to the source that has no name or boundary. Islam to the source that has no name or boundary. All right, so honorary mother. Yes, I'm buying more books tonight. Oh, Islam, someone that bought books that they're buying more books tonight. Shukran for that. If it is Marty Marr, and that was Troy TBS, and if it's Marty Marr, Islam is the Prime Minister, Emperor King Army Bay, Islam Prime Minister, East 49, Islam, Shukran, from the Creator, Islam, Islam, peace and love from Nakara Koni. Okay. All right. Sheikh Bilal, Islam. Uh, I'm gonna have to show it on the chat so I can read it bigger. Let's see. Islam, like it or not, these European names were placed upon us under pressure. We were under control of someone else. Now I see what I was told 44 years ago was wrong. Peace, Sheikh Bilal Amin Bey. Islam, Sheikh, Islamism. All right. East 49, prisoners of war. East 49, that's right. Let's see. More truth of more truth or more lies, Prime Minister of what? Uh, I think Mo, you come here every week and ask the same questions, and if you can't figure that out by now, then I'm not going to entertain your foolishness. If you can't figure that out by now, I'm the Prime Minister of the Moorish Nation. That's what I'm a Prime Minister of the Moorish Nation. The Prime Minister of the Moorish Nation. That's what I'm a Prime Minister of. All right. Let's see. How much of the Union Army was made of Frenchmen? How much? So that's a good question. That's a good question. How much of the Union Army was made of Frenchmen? You know, that's a very good question. And I do not have the answer to that on how many of them was from the I don't have that answer, but I can certainly look it up. I'm sure you can too. If you do find the answer, would you share it with us? Because I really don't know how many of them were Frenchmen. I do not know that, but shukran for that question. Okay. All right. And then, okay. All right. And then East 49 says that's why we walk out, and also George Mason didn't sign it, the Republic with us. What? That's why we walked out, and also George Mason didn't sign the Republic with us. Okay, I'm not sure what that's in reference to. You would have to give me more information on what you're talking about. If you're talking about one of the documents about the 14th Amendment and all that, that's fine. You all, the thing for me is y'all fight about what was ratified, what was not ratified. But the 14th Amendment, if you're talking about that, the whole purpose of the 14th Amendment is to give us rights that were taken away. And so whether it was ratified or not, or whatever you want to fight about, that's on you. If that's taking so much space in your brain that you don't want, you are still all this freedom that you got right now, even coming in here, posting this ridiculousness in my chat and all that. You have you have the reason to do that. The 14th Amendment allowed you those freedoms. So whether you like it or not, ratified, not ratified, what does it matter when all law is man-made law? The law put in the Jim Crow laws. That's law. Jim Crow laws. It was never abolished or ratified or nothing, but you are still a slave underneath that law. So you're fighting about something that to me don't even make any sense. Realistically doesn't make any sense. And the bottom line is that the civil rights people who fought for these freedoms, you are having these freedoms because of their fight. So be disrespectful. Okay. All right. So much more truth or more lies. I can see that disrespect is terrible there with you. All right. And so, troll. Okay. Moors were not Asiatics and they were not black. Okay. So, Moors were not Asiatics. That's interesting. That Moors are not Asiatics because the prophet told us that we're Asiatics of Moorish descent. So I'm not sure who you following, but that's just not the truth. We're the original people. That's why we're Asiatics, because we're original people. And from that territory, the land was all called Asia at one time. If you don't know your history, but again, that's fill your brain with that foolishness. All right. Ali Bay one, I think that's 11306. If you feel you're still oppressed in the United States, you need to leave here and go elsewhere. Okay, so that's a good thought, son. If you feel oppressed, okay, so leave here and go somewhere else. Okay. All right. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Black codes still here. That's the truth. Black codes are still here. And someone saying move the black codes. So Europeans, probably somebody European or Asian is in here. Whose culture ventures pretending to be something that they're not? Okay. Yusuf, okay. And more, okay. Okay, see. Moors were defeated in 1492 and disbanded. They were an army of men, no women. All right. See, Iris is Islam. Where is Taj? Oh, okay. Well, this is not Taj's channel. Taj is not here today. But if you looked at the actual flyer, it would let you know. Usually when Taj is on, I do say special guest, but Taj is not here. So if you're not happy that Taj is not here, I do appreciate you coming to the channel when I'm here, but we'll let you know when Taj is here again. We'll post it. Okay, but thank you for coming anyway. All right. Someone says Franklin, Islam, Franklin. Someone said new being 11:30 waiting on Taj. Well, I never said Taj was going to be here today. So if you're waiting on Taj is not going to be here. Taj comes on different channels, so you have to look and see where he's going to be on. If you're looking for when Taj is on certain things, you have to check the different platforms that he be on, and then you could check to see when he's there. Okay, but this is Real More Talk. This is my channel, and Taj comes on from time to time. Okay. Jay Franklin, Moriscos of Cologne. Okay. All right. If it's so bad here in the United States in 2026, okay. The only shows up periodically, not all the time, so they might be not be here today. Shukran for that, Marty Mart, because I didn't. This chat is not a Taj channel, that's why. But shukran for explaining. You are an adult. An adult. Nothing is forced on you today. That's not true. Things are forced on you today. So I'm not sure who's saying that, but things are forced on you today. Inconsequential gaming at Bay One. Oh, really? Try crashing your check with ICA taking their taste. Then tell them about not being forced. Islam, for clarifying that, Moorish science isn't Moorish history. I don't know where you get that from, but this person, I don't know who you are. Moorish treated Negroes horribly. Wow. Not sure who that individual is. Lady Thorough, Islam, Lady Thorough. Bilal, see, Sheikh Bilal, let's put your peace. Your age has nothing to do with us being free. You have liberties subject to governmental violations. Break one of these Roman rules and watch what takes place. Islam, shukran for that, Sheikh Bilal. Shukran for that. All right. Okay. Moors were Arabic, Egyptian, and Berber, not sub-Saharan African. If it's Marty Mark, get him. Okay, get him Prime Minister. Shukran, shukran. All right, Blue. My grandmother loves those headpieces. Oh, shukran for that. Your grandmother Your grandmother loves those headpieces. Shukran for that. Tell your grandmother that. Send much thought. Shukran for that. All right, let's go down to inconsequential gaming. For the record, history is as humanity's discipline. Science is repeating a strict. So let's put this up on the screen so I can see it. For the record, history is as humanity's discipline. Science is repeating a strict method of arriving to what is true or what is the most accurate conclusion. Shukran for that, Shukran. All right. Someone said it's pathetic. Not sure what's pathetic. That's Troy. Okay, and then the famous smart mark school is in session. They gonna learn today. It's not Shukran. Yes, school's in session. They're gonna learn today. Shukran, Shukran. I am a instructor. That's my job. Okay. All right. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Islam is a Moors, Muslims noble. Shukran, Islam. Madudi, see Madudi. Islam, more will be revealed to us all. Islam. Okay, let's see. This like two-third times having but loving the channel. This like my second or third time. I think that's what you're saying. This is like my second or third time but loving the channel. Shukran, Shukran. All right. We appreciate you. Like I said, we appreciate you all coming here. Islam Mother Thought Grand Sheik. Okay, someone saying Thought Grand Sheik would be here. Let's see. Let me try to put it up here so I can see. It said Islam Mother. I thought Grand Sheik was coming on tonight, and also could tell a little. Okay, Islam Mother. I thought Grand Sheik what's coming. Okay, was coming on tonight, and also can you tell us a little bit about the Yakub story? All right, so what I'm gonna do for you, because I think you asked about that the prior week, I'm gonna have Grand Sheik back on, and I'm gonna have him do the Yakub experiment. We wrote a book about it, but I'm gonna let Grand Sheik do that so that you can have it because I don't have this. This particular episode is on. I try to keep the episodes on what I'm speaking about, the divine warning, but we're gonna do that episode just for you. All right, so we're gonna do that. So I'm gonna have tell Grand Sheik. We mentioned it last time. I'm gonna ask him about doing the Yakub spirit. Now the next episode that we're having coming on will be in honor of Prophet Noble Ali's passing, which was July 20th. So it won't be that. It'll probably be the episode after that. I'll have Taj come on and talk about the Yakub experiment. In the meantime, go to Circle 7 Publishing and get the book. In the meantime, go to circle7publishing.com and get the book. So you'll be able to follow Taj when he comes on. Okay, I'll have him do that because I think this is your second time asking about it. So I'm going to make sure Taj does that for you, okay? All right, just so you'll have Taj at the same time, okay? All right, see. Okay, so Lee Bay, okay. I'll give him praise to Allah and honor to the Prophet. All right, so we're going to do that. Let's see. Okay. All right. All right. All right, someone's giving me some advice. So let me put him up on here. He says, gotta change your chat to members only or subscribers mode. All right, Shukran for that thought. I'll talk to my producer about that and see what he says, to keep the spam out. I got you. Shukran for the advice. Always up for advice. Good advice. All right. We try to make sure we engage you all, though, because you are my audience, and I need to make sure that we are honoring you, taking your time to come here. All right. All right. All right, we're almost at the end of the chat. All right, I'm going to put this up on the screen because I can hardly see it. It says Moorish Wisdom 77. Islam is a Moors. Appreciate your time and energy, Prime Minister Daria. Folks should do their proper research before making ridiculous statements about Moors and who we are. Absolutely, Mo. Absolutely. But people are paid to come on these channels and do this type of things and encourage and a lot of times it's be our own people that come in and try to destroy us like that. But I didn't hear them anything mentioned about the Christian black codes, anything about religion being forced on you. They're not talking about any of those true facts. They're just trying to spell that we Moors, but the whole world know we Moors. So for them to say that is a waste of time and energy, Mo. But I appreciate you, Shukran, for that. All right, appreciate you for that. All right, DJ Dukes, peace and life from the Bronx. All right, Bronx in the house. All right, all right. So it says this is an extension of the grant. She stopped looking just for him. Okay, I kind of see. This is an extension of the grant. She stopped looking just for him and honor the information. It's fine. I'm shukran for that. I appreciate that and honor information. All right, shukran for that. Yes, I appreciate that. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mother. You're welcome. All right. I'm going to make sure Charge takes care of you with that. Islam. Because we like to hear him speak too. Okay. All right. And another one says, all right, Grand Visor says something Grand Visor. I guess just telling me to be your Grand Visor. All right. So Shukran, so I took up a good amount of time to go over your chats. And some of you all, I put them up live. And what the brother was talking about, our producer's working on our super chat where we'll be putting people's chats up on the screen as we're talking about them. But I just love you all engagement and your thoughts of everything. And I appreciate the respect. Everyone is due respect. And you could always, if you don't like what someone's talking about on their channel, you have the freedom today to change it, right? The freedom to choose. So you can absolutely decide to choose whatever you like to talk about. All right. So we talked about the 13th Amendment because remember, and so previous episodes, we talked about the 13th Amendment. We talked about the Dred Scott case. We talked about the unconstitutionality of the 14th Amendment. We didn't talk about the 15th and 16th Amendments, not really. But what I want to do right now for you all is I'm going to read the divine warning from the prophet. And so Taj likes to do a lot of the reading now that his vision is better. So I love that he's able to do that. But now, today I'm going to read to you. And I got my specs on. My producer made sure he got my specs to me. So I got these on. All right. So I'm going to read. And this is from the MOORS literature. And all of this you can find on circle7publishing.com. You can find that information. And people say, oh, people are always selling something. People are selling things because they're striving to make a living, but we're selling things because we need to keep things going. Real More Talk channel costs, school costs. We have to pay for everything that we do to try to inform you. So if you want to donate, donate. If you do not, it's not forced on you. That's why it's called a donation. Islam. So you can donate or not donate. So it's a divine warning from the prophet for the nations. And it's on page 2 in this MOORS literature. And I'm going to read what the prophet says. And you all need to think, or if you have it, follow along with me in the notes. The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the names and principles that allude to slavery. Again, the name and principles, the names, those Johnson, Brown, Green, and all of those, and enforcing those Jim Crow laws, those black codes, is against a free national constitution. It's against it. It says, I, the prophet, was prepared by the great God of law to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and go back to the state of mind of their forefathers, divine and national principles. that they will be law abiders and receive their divine rights as citizens according to the free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. They are to claim their own free national name and religion. See, the prophet is telling you, you got to give up the Jim Crow law with the Catholic Church and Christianity and all that, and their names, and go back to your free national principles, right? Your religion, your names, your life. Thus, you got to go back to that. Okay, there is but one issue for them to recognize by this government and on the earth, and it comes only through the connection of the Moorish divine and national movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all other nations of the world. And through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights, unmolested by other citizens, that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under the free national constitution of the state's government and not under a granted privilege as it has been the existing condition for many generations. And as you can see, the prophet is telling us, what we need to do. We need to be able to go to the polls, cast a ballot to vote, but you have to vote into your best interest. Yes, we are a Republican form of government, but that does not mean that you are Republican. The Republican Party today is not the same. Back in the day, the Republican Party was Asiatics. But Asiatics left the Republican Party when those Dixiecrats started coming in and taking over, right? They left the Republican Party and they went on into the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party was fighting for the rights in which they were, so they went in their best interest. So the bottom line is that you cannot keep thinking that you're supposed to vote against your best interest. The prophet would never steer you wrong in that direction. You doubt whether either prophet and my principles are right for the redemption of my people. Go to those that know law in the city hall and among the officials in your government and ask them under the intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply. For they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into light. Money doesn't make the man. It is free national standards and powers that makes a man in a nation. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce belong to the citizens alone. And without your national citizenship by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And I want to go back to that because we talked about this the prior week about being a national and a citizen. The prophet said, and I'm going to go to what the prophet said. He said, gold and silver and commerce belong to the citizens alone. And without your national citizenship by names and principles, very clear, you have no true wealth. And I am here by calling on all true citizens that stand for a national free government and the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work, because I need all support from all true American citizens of the United States of America. Help me to save my people who have fallen from the constitutional laws of the government. I'm depending on your support to get them back to the constitutional fold again, that they will learn to love instead of hate and will live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and support our free national constitution of the United States of America. And that's the prophet was talking about. So he didn't say part of the Constitution. He didn't say forget this part of the Constitution. He said the Constitution of the United States of America. So whatever the Constitution has in place, if it's according with what we need for ourselves and our laws to live by, then that's what we need to be following. But as you can see right now, that the people who are in office right now could get less about the Constitution. All right, the prophet said, I love my people, and I desire their unity and mind back to their own free national and divine standard, because day by day they have been violating the national constitutional laws of their government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. If Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all other American citizens alike. In all other governments, when a man is born and raised there and asks for his national descent name and he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Any group of people that fail to answer to the constitutional standards of law by name and principles, because to be a citizen of any government, you must claim your national descent name, because they placed their trust upon issues and names founded by their forefathers. Morris, you got to give up these slave names. You got to give them up. And you got to stop trying to find reasons to hold on to them and lie that we made up these names. And, oh, man, we come up with so much stuff just to hold on to slavery. We come up with so much stuff just to hold on to it. The word Negro dilutes in the Latin word to the word nigger, the same as the word color dilutes anything that's painted, varnished, and dyed. And every nation must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring thy fathers and thy mothers, your days will be lengthened upon this earth. These names have never been recognized by any true American citizens of this day. Through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by said national government in which they live. The 14th and 15th Amendments brought the North and South in unit, placing the Southerners who were in that time without power with the constitutional body of power. At that time in 1865, the Free National, and it should have been Declaration of Independence, law was enforced in 1774 that declared all men equal and free. If all men were declared by the Free National Constitution to be equal and free, since that declaration has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendments for the salvation of our people. So he's saying that there would have been no need for it if they were following the law, but they did not follow it. So there isn't but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost, and that is to the above statements. Then the lion and the lamb can lie down together in yonder hills, and neither will be harmed, because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in this land. In those days, the United of the States will be one of the greatest civilized and prosperous governments of the world. But if the above principles are not carried out by the citizens and my people in this government, the worst is yet to come. Because the great God of the universe is not pleased with the works that are being performed in North America by my people, and this great sin must be removed from the earth, must be removed from the land to save it from enormous earthquakes, diseases, etc. And as we can see, the worst is yet to come because these things are not being carried out. And I, the prophet, do hereby believe that this administration of the government, being more widely prepared by more genuine citizens that believe in their free national constitution and laws, and through the help of such class of citizens, I, the prophet, truly believe that my people will find the true and divine way of their forefathers and learning to stop serving carnal customs and merely ideals of men that have never done them any good, but have always harmed them. So I, the prophet, am hereby calling aloud with a divine plea to all true American citizens to help me to remove this great sin which has been committed and is being practiced by my people in the United States of America, because they know it is not the true divine way, and without understanding they have fallen from the true light into utter darkness of sin. And there is no nation on earth today that will recognize them socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc., in their present condition of their endeavors, in which them themselves try to force upon a civilized world. They will not refrain from their sinful ways of action, and their deeds have brought Jim Crowism, segregation, everything that brings harm to human beings on earth. And they have fought the Southerners for all these great misuses. But I have traveled in the South and have examined conditions there, and it is the worst of my people continuously practice the things that bring dishonor, disgrace, and disrespect to any nation that lives a life. I am hereby calling on all true American citizens for moral support and finance to help me in my great missionary work to bring my people out of darkness into marvelous light. From the prophet. All right, and so the prophet is saying, so Jim Crowism was brought upon by the people who continuously try to keep us enslaved. So, and by us not really fighting for our freedoms, and I think back then a lot of people really did not know what their freedom looked like. And so that's all they knew. All they knew what was placed in the minds, right, of their mothers and fathers, and they've raised the children to believe that way. And as we still do today, our children today that are still living under black codes laws in Christianity and living in those lives and thinking, I mean, I'm looking at the conditions of the people today, like our children. Like, even if you look at TV, when you see it, our sisters on it. I give you an example. On Roland Martin, there's one sister who's supposed to be a lawyer. She was a judge and lawyer, prosecutor. She always on there with her boobs sitting straight out. So there's no, I mean, is that how you present yourself in a professional environment today, where people, thousands of people are watching you and you're in front of a camera? But these are the things that we constantly practice because we felt as though we were forced into slavery. So now we feel like freedom. And so when we talk about freedom, we think that's freedom. Every sister I see on every TV show and walking the streets that got a bunch of hair in their head or wearing wigs, like their natural hair is not beautiful. It's all in the mindset. All right, you still are claiming on guys of you're following them who you knew nothing of. You still have that European psychology embedded into your brain that's their standard of beauty. So you want to look like them, you want to act like them, you want to be them. And even to the point where people claim and stay in more science, but you see them looking like that. Hair weaves all the way down to their back, dresses or shorts up to their crack of their behind, shirts all the way down so far you can see everything. There's nothing to the imagination. Brothers walking around with their pants hanging all the way off their behind, inviting somebody to their behind, looking ridiculous, not wearing their fezzes or fez caps, not dressing like a Moor, not looking like a Moor at all. So you can't tell them for an unconscious Asiatic. It's like you're afraid to be who you are. You're afraid to walk in the light and wear your garbs and wear your clothes. But somebody will tell me, oh, you look so beautiful. And I say to them, you could look like this too. I mean, if you enjoy our clothes and you said it's beautiful, but you don't see yourself in it, I mean, come on, Morris. We have so many things and so much beauty in us and our culture that we could do. We don't have to chase after other people's customs and cultures. People love our clothes and they chase after us. And so that's what you want to make sure that you're looking like you. Loving yourself. You have to learn to love yourself first. Learn to love yourself. Okay. Be yourself and not somebody else. That's what the prophet told us. Fed's always on. I appreciate you, Jay Franklin 5. He says Fed's always on. All right, shukran. And unfortunately, in this format, I cannot see you all, what you have on or whatever. But it's wonderful to know that you're always in your fez. All right, shukran. All right, so I wanted to make sure that we got that from the prophet. Take a sip of water. It is allergy season, so I apologize. My allergies have been acting up today. I took all my herbs and stuff today to make sure I try to keep them down, but just fighting with that. Okay, so all right, so what I wanted to talk about too. So now that we talked about the 13th Amendment, we talked about again the 13th Amendment, 1865. We talked about the 14th Amendment, 1868. We talked about Amendment 15. I think we did not talk about Amendment 15. And Amendment 15 was 1870. And Amendment 15 prohibited denying the right to vote based on race, color, or previous condition or servitude. That rose a lot of opposition in the southern states. All right, they were resistant to it. They wanted to keep limited powers and have us in very little political participation at all. And see, listen, I'm not against at all. I'm not against at all. At all. I'm not against us being separate from those Europeans and not amalgamating with them and not being in the same society. But in the real world, that's not going to happen. We've already, amalgamated with them into certain ways in society, but we can still have our own little groups. Like we can have our own communities. But look what's happening right now. A lot of Asiatic companies are being sued if they're not hiring Europeans. Now they consider it reverse discrimination. They're saying that if we don't hire them into our schools and our businesses, then we're discriminating against them. And some of them are winning these cases against Asiatics. So, you know, part of the problem is that we're allowing any old thing to take place and happen, and we're not fighting back. And the problem is we have to learn to fight back. Because if you talk about people that consider themselves Jews and say any little thing that they think is, anti-Semitic or whatever, which we can never be anti-Semitic, but they will sue you, take everything from you, and win every time. We have to be just as strong about ourselves and our beliefs. So we want to have our own Asiatic community. We have the right to do so and not be sued. We have our own Asiatic schools. We have the right to do so and don't be sued. And that's why we really can't get angry with them if they don't want us in the businesses. But we built this country. So by us building this country, everything they have is off our blood, sweat, and tears. But if they're not creating opportunities and things for us, then we can do what? Create it for ourselves. That's what we need to do. And stop beating each other up. We spend so much fiat in this man's government. Imagine if we started putting that fiat back into our own government. And that's some of the things we're going to talk about in our next upcoming segments is economic security. We're going to have a large panel. I won't say large, a few people when we do our economic security broadcast. We're going to be doing it with lots of people with different backgrounds and talking about economics in our community. So that's going to be coming up. All right. So then we had organizations such as the Ku Klux Klan who used terror and violence to discourage voting and civic participation. So we had that happen. The disputed presidential election of 1876 led to a political agreement commonly called the Compromise of 1877. As part of the agreement, federal troops were withdrawn from the remaining occupied southern states. Reconstruction governments came to an end, and southern state governments regained control over their internal affairs. And then came Jim Crow. We know Jim Crow came along, and this is why the Reconstruction era mattered, because Jim Crow came along, and when Jim Crow came along, what happened? We lost everything. Okay. All right. I just want to think before, I want to make sure I try to get everything in because I lately haven't been able to get everything in. All right. So let me go here. So this is page. All right. All right. So why Reconstruction matters. Reconstruction is one of the most significant periods in American history because it reshaped the relationship between the federal government, the states, and individual rights. It was the era in which the nation sought to determine how the promises of emancipation would reflect in law, citizenship, and political participation. Reconstruction also provides the historical background drop that Prophet Noble was talking about in the Divine Warning. Nationality and citizenship responsibilities for decades after the Reconstruction had ended. While the prophet's interpretation is based on he's basing it on his philosophy of how the way should work, his philosophical point of view, and on his religious point of view of us not being Christians because we should never have been Christian. But the prophet truly believed in us learning about our rights and learning about being citizens and citizenship. And this is why he taught civics, because he wanted to make sure that even though we were religious individuals by spirit, we still had to do our things as citizens, as national citizens here in the United States. And because citizenship became important, because after coming out of slavery, they would consider you non-citizens. which means if you were considered a non-citizen, then they could treat you any kind of way they wanted to treat you. And so this is why it was really important to bestow our rights, our citizenship, nationality became really important. And so I know a lot of you all don't think that nationality is important, but it is one of the most important things, because if you think about it, even on those posters that they put Mexicans not wanted, they had a nationality. And on things they put where Jews were not wanted, even though there is no real nationality of Jews, of Judea is a territory or place, Judea, they can connect that to a nationality or place. But black, Negro, colored, coon, shine, jigaboo, yo brother, African Americans, we can connect Africa to America. Yes, we can connect Africa, but then what nation in Africa are you from? Because I thought I had it was 52, but I think someone told me it was 54 different nationalities in Africa. So which nation do you belong to? So all of it stems back to making sure that you have a nationality and a birthright, and that you invoke your information to citizenship. It's really important. And we have to remember the divine warning by the prophet. Did we miss the call? Did we miss what the prophet was trying to tell us? What part did we miss? He told you to proclaim your free national name and status. What part did we miss? That some of us still not, and using every excuse in the book why we not proclaiming our free national status. Every excuse in the book. But we want to talk about other people. You can't talk about other nations of people, other people when they're doing the work. And we are not. As more, so everything should reflect who you are. Wear your headdress. He said your headpiece is figure number 1. I'm not sure of how many of you all have the science on the fez that it represents the breast, the tassels, 360 strands in the tassels. I'm not sure how many of you have, even recognize that fez represents mother, and then the nipple in the middle of it. How many of you all don't even know the history of the fez or turban? I'm gonna have to do a real more talk on that. We'll do the history of the fez and turban together at the same time. We have writings on that. How many of you don't even realize the importance of when you walk around and be recognized in your national headwear? How many of us are economically, the prophet told us about economics. Did we miss it? What part did we miss when he told us that we need to do things economically for ourselves? He said we'll never be recognized politically, socially, or economically as long as you're under Negroism, as long as you practice those things that delude to slavery. Did we miss something? Are you just not listening or reading what the prophet had to say because you can't hear him? We don't have any recordings of the founder. Some of the reincarnated prophets, we did have recordings from the brother Elisha had, like video and stuff, but we don't have anything of the founder. But did we miss it? What did we miss? What did we miss? Because the prophet gave it to us in the divine warning. What part did we miss? So, MOORS, again, politically, socially, or economically, no one is going to recognize you under Negroism because they still look at you under the black codes, right? The Christian black codes, the Jim Crow laws that have never been abolished, never been taken away. None of that's been ever taken away. So right now, that's what they're putting you under. And as long as you have those names that delude to slavery, you will be continuously acting that way. And let me tell you, they so nervous about you claiming your free national status that they'll try to strip you of it when you're in court. You have to constantly retell them your name, your appellation. You have to continuously make them aware of who you are. constantly make them aware of who you are. And you don't be someone else in public and being more in private. This is not no old all boys or girls club, no privacy issue club. This is a nation with national standards and principles. And there's no reason in the world that you should be trying to do a private and public. Somebody brought that mess up. We are not practicing sovereign citizenship. But a lot of Moors have taken sovereign citizens and brought it into the Moorish nation information. So now you want to follow the sovereign citizens who don't like you. Those sovereign citizens look at you under Negro law. They're the ones that fight against the 14th Amendment because they feel like that you should still be a slave. So why are we chasing after people of gods of Europe? Why are we still chasing them? The prophet said we have our own national laws and principles. He said by day, we're violating those principles. So did we miss something, Moors? Please type in the chat what you think we missed. Did we miss something? Or are we just not following it? Because we too busy chasing after the idle gods of those Europeans who we knew nothing of. We're still chasing their dreams. What about our dreams? Is your dream to be them? You don't like your melanin in your skin? You don't like the clothes that we wear? You don't like the food that we eat? You don't like the sound of our voice? You don't like the information that we give? What is it, Moors? What is it? Did we miss something? Help me out in the chat. Did we miss something? Please help me out here. Our topic today on Real Moors Talk. What did we miss? Did we miss the message that the prophet brought? Did we miss it? I certainly don't feel like I missed it because day by day I'm striving to live what the prophet said. Listen, the prophet said our own newspaper. Because he said the news outlets media is dangerous. So we should have our own newspaper. So what? We can tell our own stories. More, we have to tell our own stories. We have to educate and erudite our own people. We have to continue to do that. And for those who try to block the information, who are you? Who are you? Are you so assimilated into another man's culture and world that you have no love for your own? Is that how deep in you are? Because we notice this generation by generation by generation. Because they're telling you right now here in the news, all the European news, if you don't want to assimilate, then get out of here. Where are we going? We home. They need to get out of here, but we home. I have no desire to amalgamate, which is assimilation. I have no desire to do that. Or marry into the families of the Pelsic nations of Europe. Neither serve the gods of their religion. I have no desire to do so. What about you? Type in the chat, Moors. What about you? Let's see. Okay, it says the black hand. I'm not sure what that means. All right, so what about you, Moors? Okay, I am so grateful to have the knowledge that I have. I am so grateful to be able to share the information with you all. And I want you to think about this. Did we miss the message that the prophet was trying to bring? I want all of you all, if you have a Moorish literature, now you can get off the internet. You don't even really have to purchase it, unfortunately, but you should want to purchase it to have a copy of your own. You should want to purchase it. Read the Moorish literature again. See what the prophet is telling us. and knowing that the laws that put us in slavery, they fought to keep us in slavery. They did the Reconstruction period, and with that, they did the black codes and Jim Crow laws. And Jim Crow has children, and his children have children, and his children's children have children. All right, and that's what we're living in today, is those time and eras, Moors. All right. So this has been a great episode of Real Moors Talk. I'm so excited always to be here. And let's see, someone has a quick question. Let's see. Prime Minister, what did Miss? Okay, let me see. Let me see what he's saying so I can put it up here. It says, quick question. How would we respond to other Moors that are knowledgeable but lack the concept of love and peace? So how should we respond to other Moors that are knowledgeable but lack the concepts of love and peace? Listen, the prophet said that there's nothing you can do with the high-minded. So if those people are high-minded, they don't have concepts of love and peace, then that's something that you really don't want to integrate to yourself, because if they're into those mind frames, they're going to try to cut you up and bring you down if you're trying to love and stay peaceful. So the only way you can respond to them is in love and peace, even if they don't. Just still, give the information that you have, in a loving, peaceful, honorable manner, and then let them have to try to do the rest. That's all you can do. You can't make people, you know what I'm saying? You can't make people accept that. And a lot of them are so high-minded that that's the hardest thing. They're high-minded. And the prophet said high-minded are just there to be destroyed. All right, shukran. So that's all we can do. I appreciate you, though. Islam, shukran. Someone else had a question real quick. Let's see. We go back to. Oh, someone asked me a question. Says, quick question. How should Prime Minister said, "What did I miss?" Laugh out loud. You got it covered. All right, shukran. As Islam, you're right. I just want to find out what was missed. Islam, shukran for that. Islam. All right. So we'll be closing down in a few minutes. So more. I did want to go back to when you go into the chat, when you go back to the link, we have a promotional flyer in there about our school, and our enrollment is open. So I need you all to click that link for me. And I'd like for you all to pass that link on to someone else about our online schooling. But I do want to cover, if you'd like to send a donation to us, you go to the donate button and you go to more signs with GSK at therearbay.com. Go right there to be able to donate to us. You can go to our books, circle7publishing.com. Some of you all have ordered books from us, and we really appreciate you ordering those books. And our mailing days are Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So those who did put in books and they're ready, they'll be going out on Friday's mail. So we do the 3 days a week where we have that mail going out. We really appreciate you purchasing those books. You just have no idea. Doors of Drew Ali is our humanitarian organization. So please, if you can, donate to Doors of Drew Ali. For those who have donated, we appreciate those donations because it helps us help others. All right. We used to have 2 frequent donors that would support 2 children every year to the school. Unfortunately, both of them have passed away. So we need more of you. If you don't have any children, to go ahead and support someone else's child, because we're all one family. The prophet said, bearing one free national name. Wanted you to donate to our online schooling, go to online schooling MC and donate to our online schooling. All right. And I did want to reiterate the things about our school. Like I said, they're on the flyer, so you can certainly make sure that you check that flyer out. All right. Yeah, you just want to make sure you check that flyer out. And I did have a copy. If anyone wants a copy of the Black Codes, we do have a book called the Black Codes, and I do have the Black Codes. I did print it out. I didn't need to go to all of them, but I did read some of the Roman numerals. But these were some of the articles of the Black Codes. This one is about the Christian Black Codes of 1724, the Nigger Bible. And so I have to put that one. I don't think I have that one on the book site, but we'll make sure we put it up there about the Christian Black Codes of 1724. We also have it in this type form too. You can ask for that, and we can certainly send you a copy of the printed out version. But we also have it in book form too, and explaining to you about what the Christian Black Codes was all about and how to get yourself from under the Christian Black Codes. You want to make sure we do that. Also, we want to make sure that this is the book we read from the day, our Moorish literature. Please make sure you get a copy of the Moorish literature. All right, it's really important. We want to make sure that we have education for our children, because listen, what you're just learning today, for more than a decade, I have been providing through our children, I have providing history, legacy, financial literacy, language arts, mathematics, science, health, foreign language, career readiness, and culture studies. We also provide for those people. Some people might want to just have their children come to the school to learn some of this information, but they also want to, still keep them, unfortunately, for whatever reason, into the public school. Well, you can do that too. You still have to pay the same fee. It doesn't change, but you can get copies of recording, for your children. Now, one issue we did run into before is someone was getting a copy of recording and then playing it for the whole entire neighborhood. And we have to stop trying to do that stuff, and take away from each other. We have to make sure that we constantly want to support each other. So we'll constantly do that. Well, Moors, I want to thank you all for coming out again to Real Moors Talk, episode 24. You have been on Shadow Hour with Real Moors Talk. The next time our episode will be coming up, we'll be doing about the Prophet Noble Drew Ali's passing on July 20th. And so that's what the show is going to be about on July 20th. And then we're going to do the episode that the sister kept asking for about the Yakub experiment. I'll put that up next. And then we're going to talk about, on our August episode on the 16th, I think it's Thursday, about Brother Marcus Garvey. All right. So, Moors, we're going to constantly keep it going with information, legacy, history, and the power of the mind. We welcome your thoughts. With us, we want to thank you for getting Real Moors Talk to the highest numbers we ever obtained, which was last week. We were so excited to see those numbers rolling in, and we trust you continue to do so. Continue to perpetuate us, the information, pushing the videos forward, and constantly come back and see us. And the good thing about this live recording, it is recorded. So if you missed something, if you came in late, you can play it over and over and over again. All right? Until next time on Real Moors Talk, take care of yourselves and each other. You've been on Shadow Hour with Prime Minister, hostess, National Grand Sheikh Red Bay. All right, Moors, stay safe. Assalamu alaikum.